Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of That's Hockey Talk. A little bit of a special one this week. We got Stu Bickel, former NHL tough guy. He played for the Rangers and a cup of coffee with the Wild. We're going to be talking to him because I'm on vacation this week. I know, AQ, you got some things going on, and Gumpy's back in Canada. So let's not make you wait too long. Let's get right to it. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now on the phone, he played 10 years professionally between the AHL and the NHL. He's a former New York Ranger, and he had a cup of coffee with the hometown Minnesota Wild. He recently retired from the game. He's now an assistant coach for the University of Minnesota, the Gophers, where he once played in college. Ladies and gentlemen, Stu Bickel. Stu, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Do you keep up with the NHL game now that you're retired and you're coaching in college? Is it something you're still actively watching all the time, or is it something you just catch here and there?
I do. I keep up with it. I'm watching games pretty much every night on NHL Network, and got the center ice package going. So usually that's kind of how I spend my evenings. But I stay up to date with the college stuff as well as the NHL stuff.
So let me ask you this. You say you watch a lot of NHL Network. Do you like the way they cover the game on there? Because I always feel like, I don't know, sometimes it feels a little forced to me and a little corny, and I wish some of the guys, I wish they'd bring in a little more of the grittier guys to just kind of like lighten it up a little bit.
Well, you got Mike Rupp there.
Yeah, Rupper's great.
Yeah, no, he's a friend of mine, and I think they do a good job there. I'm more watching games probably than most of their other coverage, but right. I think they do a good job. I love watching Rupper. Mark Parrish is another Minnesota guy that kind of just started taking on more with them, so it's fun to turn on the TV and see those guys for sure.
Now, you mentioned Rupper. Was it in New York that you played with him? Yep.
He, unfortunate for him, he had to play on my line actually for a little bit when I was with the Rangers. So, yep, we got to know each other there pretty well.
I mean, that had to be a pretty fierce line though, with you two out there banging bodies around it. And that was under TORT'S. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you could talk a little bit about what it's like to play for that guy, because he seems like a maniac in the media, but I assume he's an awesome guy to play for.
He is an awesome guy. No, I definitely would not say he's a maniac. He's hard on his guys. But he knows exactly what he's doing. You know, he's good at getting the most out of his players. He demands a lot from you. And so, there's definitely has to be buy-in there for him to be able to implement what he wants to. But he's done a good job everywhere he's been, and he's a guy that I have a lot of respect for.
Hey, Stu, it's AQ here. I've bounced around on a couple teams myself, in the NFL. So talk to us a little bit about, your time going to AHL, going into the NHL, and kind of bouncing around different teams here and there.
Yeah, I signed with the Anaheim Ducks out of college, entry-level contract with them, and then bounced around in their system between a few different teams over 2 years, and then I was traded to New York and went to Hartford, and then finally got my call in New York after playing on maybe 5 professional teams. So it was a bit of a journey, and it's definitely moving around is something I'm familiar with. So that's just kind of what it took for me to get there. I kind of had to pave my own way and kind of recognize what I had to do to fulfill a role on a team, and fit in. So,
no, I get it. I mean, I've had to do that quite a bit myself. I find, at least in my journey, that now that the last 5 years I've been starting every game, I feel like once you kind of reach that point where you make it and you kind of get that opportunity, I think going through all the tough times early and finally reaching that pinnacle, I feel like it's a little sweeter in my end. I don't know if you felt that same way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely relate to what you're saying there. It's different coming in as a free agent and not really necessarily being highly touted heading into your pro career. You're going to have to do the work, to get your opportunity, and you just have to stay with it. And fortunately, I was able to get a lot of good bounces along the way as well. So, I made the dream come true, but, you also need a little bit of luck as well.
Stu, we got our resident Canadian friend here, Gumpy. He's got some questions, Stu, he's got for you.
Yeah, Stu, you had
Gumpy,
that.
how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
You had that legendary fight to start the game against the Devils. I'm just curious, to go back to Torts, what the kind of pregame chat was to get that going.
Oh, from what I remember, it's a long time ago, but from what I remember, he came in, they had set their lineup, and so he came into the room and he basically said, we're not taking a step backwards, and so I think we read the message loud and clear. He didn't specifically say, go out there and fight, but it was pretty obvious when he read the lineup sheet and he had me at center, kind of, what he's planning on doing. So, so we didn't really talk about it with Torts, but then when he left the room, we kind of chatted and sorted out how we were going to handle it and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of an unspoken thing. And like you alluded to earlier, you knew your role, so you knew what you were doing out there.
Right.
Do you like the way the game's gone? They've definitely taken steps to not eliminate fighting, but they player safety is the number one priority right now.
Right.
And you said you still watch the game actively. Do you notice that difference? Do you like the way the game's gone, or do you still wish there was a little bit of that edge back in the game?
The game is going that way, regardless of what people want or like, just given all the concussion stuff and kind of the way that the direction the NHL is trying to take the game. And, it's a fast-paced game still, though. And so, when you do see guys running around and you see some of these hits at the speed the guys are moving nowadays, that can be pretty scary, too. So I think, it's also still important to have that there and to have some guys that are holding everybody accountable on the ice. We don't want guys running around trying to hurt everybody. So I think it's still, fighting definitely still has its spot in the game. But, I totally understand that, you got to be able to play now to play in the league. You can't just do that. So I think it's a good thing that you kind of get rid of those the planned fights, I guess. But at the same time, you definitely still have to have it. You have to have the players policing the game.
Absolutely. Did you ever experience any issues with concussions or see any of your teammates go through anything like that? That basically, the whole awakening throughout the league where everyone's like, oh, okay, we need to take this more seriously. We need to focus on this a little bit. Did you experience any of that?
I did have a few along the way. Definitely had my share. But, I think if you look at how often players get concussions in fights versus the hitting in hockey, I think you'd find a lot more often they're coming from the hits, from the shoulders to the head, elbows to the head to the glass, things like that. So, I guess I don't really know exactly how I feel about it yet at this point in my life.
Sure.
Fortunately, I'm doing just fine at the end of my, heading from that career into what I'm doing now. Transitioned pretty well, and so I don't really have any ongoing issues from it. I do know guys that definitely do, and they're guys that I worry about for sure.
Well, it's great to hear. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad you got your health. If I did my research correctly, I believe you had 17 fights in your NHL career and a whole bunch more in the minors. Do you remember every single one of them, or do a lot of them kind of just blur together?
If you brought up every single one of them, I probably would remember it. But yeah, I mean, there's a handful, and then you also have the ones like in training camp and things like that. But yeah, there's quite a few. I definitely would remember all of my NHL fights. You know what? I probably would remember most, even back through junior and stuff. So.
That's impressive. Is there anyone that stands out to you as like, did you have like a rival, or was there like one of the toughest guys you ever fought or anything like that?
Actually this Curtis McDermott kid in LA now, he's pretty tough. Yeah. I fought him actually at the end of my career when I was down in San Diego, and he was in Ontario playing in their system there. And he throws heavy, and he throws hard. We saw it, I think, just the other night against Delorier. He's a tough kid, really tough kid. I'd say he's right up there in the NHL right now. Back when I was in New York, I fought Michael Haley a couple times, fought him in the minors a couple times. And Hales is he's a pit bull. He's a really tough guy. Great guy off the ice too. Actually, that turns out you meet most of these guys and you end up being friends with them, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Hales and I had some battles back in the day, but we laugh about them now. We still keep in touch. So,
Stu, did you see the KACHUK KASSIAN fight the other day, and what were your thoughts on that?
I did, and yeah, I mean, I don't think either one of those two guys really had too much of an issue with the way everything happened in both instances. In the one, KACHUK kind of made it sound like he wanted to get the upper hand with the power play, and then KASSIAN gets his bit in when they fight the next time, and KACHUK's ready for it and all that. So I think when you got a guy running around leaving his wing, playing that way, I don't have any problem with that. But then you do have to stand up for yourself when somebody challenges you. I think it's always been that way, and I think if you ask most of the players now, they'd tell you too that they want that in the game.
Absolutely, I think you get mixed reviews, obviously, because I know the way the game's going. But me as a football player, I love the fighting. I love the goons. I consider myself a goon. I think that's part of the reason why I've been able to make it as far as I have. But I do miss some of those. So whenever I see that, I see the goalie fight the other night. I miss seeing that part in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in your sport it's a little bit different with. Like you guys, people always say, well, then why don't they fight in football? And, I think there's a point there, but it's a little bit different when most of the hits you're facing, you're running upfield, and the guy that's going to hit you is coming from the front or the side, from an angle usually, right? And in hockey, you can get hit from any direction really at any point in the game. So, there are hits that, the refs miss that can be really dangerous, into the wall from behind. Even when they miss a guy, get clipped with an elbow or something like that. Because there's so much going on in all directions, there's, really, if you ask most players, I don't think most of them really follow through viciously on their hits to try to really get as much out on their opponent as they can. I think you're seeing defensemen contain more often and play a more defensive style. And so, when a guy goes out of his way to light a guy up, it's pretty apparent. And, sometimes you have to take that in your own hands to keep the game safe.
Stu, a lot of times in your role, most of the things that go on are unspoken. A lot of times, if a teammate gets hit, they don't come to the bench and say, hey, Stu, I need you to go take care of that for me, right? It's kind of just understood.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit and like what that's like sticking up for your teammates? It's just like that mindset of being so selfless. It's like, all right, I might take a beating tonight, but I know he's got my back. I'm going to go out there and do it for this guy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Everybody has their role on a team, right? So, if some guys have to go out and score goals, some guys have to go out, make plays, get pucks deep, possess the puck, play good defensively. There's all these different sort of roles that you take on. And, one of the things I ended up doing was standing up for my teammates. And, but I think all those things involve, being a good teammate and doing your job and being accountable and having your teammates' backs. And, I never found that really too difficult, even if I wasn't really particularly good buddies with a guy off the ice, say, I never really even had to think about it. If I saw something go on the ice that shouldn't be going on, I just, it was almost instinctual for me. So
right.
I guess in a sense I was blessed with that to be able to kind of flip the switch and do that. It never was something I really had to put too much thought into.
Along those lines, like when did you kind of realize that you could make a career out of this or go pro this route? Was it something early on, or was it something you came to later where like you were a skilled player growing up and it was like, okay, well, I got to flip the switch here?
Well, I think, for everybody that gets into fighting, at some point in your life you were a skilled player, and then, you get to a level and you're like, okay, I got my hands full to keep up here. And so just, raw talent-wise, even like in junior hockey, I knew I was going to have to kind of do some of that work, and then I just kind of kept that going. I played college, so there is no fighting there. And then, you know, getting back into pro, I didn't really start fighting my first 2 years. I think I only had a couple each year. And then my third year, I just kind of, I don't know, going into my third year, I really kind of recognized, like, you know, hey, you got to do something here. You got to bring some value here if you want to keep your career going. That's kind of what I told myself. And that was one of those things that really I just looked at it and I saw, you know, it takes willingness, but, you know, if I keep doing it and keep teaching myself how to do it and working it, you know, that was probably my best shot at making to the NHL. So that's kind of what I ran with.
Yeah, Stu, just to go back to your time with the Rangers, guys like Marian Gaborik and Brad Richards, who was the most talented player on that team just from practice and games that you played with?
Oh, gosh. I mean, there was a lot of talent there, but, yeah, I would say Richie's right there. Like, I mean, I didn't have a long career in the NHL by any means, so, you know, I don't have a huge list of star players that I played with or anything like that, but Brad Richards definitely sticks out to me, and he's also a guy I really respected in that, you know, me coming in there as a guy who, you know, had not been there before and making the team out of camp that 1 year, and he was just a really good guy, really good with the young guys, and so, you know, I couldn't have asked for a better group to kind of walk into and to help me keep my career going as well.
Is there anyone on another team that you got a chance to watch and you're like, wow, that guy, like, just kind of blown away by skill-wise?
Oh, gosh, now or when I was playing?
Either, to be honest.
Well, now I look at McDavid, and like I love watching McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, it's just they move so they can make plays at such high speeds now. It's insane, really. I mean, I feel so bad for these defenders. Like, I watch these guys just getting roasted by them, and I'm like, man, I don't know what you do there, you know? Like, so they can do things, you know, that most guys can only do at half speed. They can do them at full. So I love watching the Oilers and watching those two play.
You know, we've been asking every guest we've had on the show, you know, what if I were to ask you right now, who do you think are the top 5 players in the NHL? What would you say?
Top 5 players?
Top 5 players.
Okay, we're gonna go Ovi, Sid, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Malkin, maybe.
Hey, we're Pittsburgh guys. I ain't gonna fight you there.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, you know what? You know who's going to be really good? Jake Gensel. You know, I don't throw him in that top 5, but he's a player, man. And I had him this summer on an off-season league we do here in Minnesota, and he's just an awesome kid, and he's something special too. It's so fun to watch him play, especially like just playing shinny in the summer. The stuff he does, guys are just like, what the hell?
Oh, I can imagine. Hey, glad to know he's in good hands with you. Maybe you tough him up a little bit, you know? Show him how to throw them hands a little bit.
I don't know how much I can coach Genner, but we have fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so here's another question we've been asking everyone. What's something you would change in the NHL? Let's say you were commissioner for a day. Is there something you would change about what's going on right now?
Ooh. That's a tough one. You know, that's a perspective I've never really looked at. I guess maybe, you know, the league is, I don't know. I can't put my finger on anything. I would say the minor leagues are getting so young. You know, I think eventually, you know, you're going to want to have some older players in your system as well, so that you do have options to call players up that are immediately ready. So you're not experimenting so much at the NHL level, but that's not really a commissioner type thing. That's more team based. I don't really have any qualms with the way that the league is going. with the fighting thing that we talked about, I don't really foresee that being completely out of the game. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but I just feel like
I think it's going to be there for a while, and I think I don't think they're going to actively phase it, like legislate it out. I think they're just going to let the natural progression go its way.
Right. But I mean, yeah, if you have good players that are just keeping the game safe and holding people accountable, that's an entirely different thing than having the heavyweights of the early 2000s and whatnot. So I think that's got that'll be in the game for a while. If we are trying to phase that out, I think I would caution us on that. But I really don't have any issues with the games going. I think it's fun to watch. It's the players now, they're so skilled and they're so fast. And so, I get an opportunity to work with our guys here even one-on-one quite a bit and in small groups before and after practice. And, we work skills and shooting and passing and skating and everything. And it's pretty amazing how skilled these young players are now. And you definitely got a really good crop of players coming into the NHL soon too.
Yeah, it seems like just younger and younger every year, like guys making the jump at 18 and not looking out of place. They look like they belong, which is astonishing.
Exactly.
To see. Hey,
crazy.
And along that lines, the game's changed quite a bit in the past 20 years in terms of off-ice conditioning, nutrition, all that stuff. In your time, did you guys still go out with the boys on the road, have a couple beers, anything like that? Because it seems like that has gone way down. You used to hear stories back in the day, these legendary party stories, and now it seems like everyone's just having a meal, heading back to the hotel, and going to bed. Did you guys get cut loose a little bit and enjoy yourselves?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, especially in the minors, you'd see a lot of that. But, I mean, we'd go out and have a couple beers with dinner or whatever. But in the past, I would say in the early half of my career, that was a lot more prevalent.
Yeah.
I would say the back 5 years, it became less and less common. And, I mean, you do have to be in such good shape now, and you're physically challenging yourself every day in practice. And so as the game gets faster and more demanding, I think you're seeing the lives of the players off the ice be kind of transformed as well. And, that's all good and fine. I think that type of commitment is what we want to see in the best athletes in the world.
Well, speaking of, you're molding young men, you're coaching, you're an assistant coach at the University of Minnesota, correct? What made you want to get into coaching, and did you consider like the junior route, or was it like, hey, I played at Minnesota, I'd like to go back there and do college? What was the mindset there?
Well, this setup worked out well because I'm coming back here, and then I just re-enter school in my same degree that I was doing before. I had left after my freshman year, so I had quite a bit that I wanted to finish up, and I wanted to get my degree. So that was a big part of my thinking in getting back into the college game. And so I'm in my second year here at the U of M. And that it's been challenging to get yourself to go back to school and be in the classroom with kids again and do all that, but humbling as well. And I'm really glad that I did it. So the academic part of it is really huge to me. It was something that I knew I wanted to do, but not really something that I wanted to chip away at while I was playing.
Right.
And so, we'll take it from here, and I'll graduate this summer, so I'm excited for that and just kind of excited to see where coaching takes me.
Well, that's awesome, man. Very proud of you for going back. Awesome to hear. Glad you still got your health and everything, and wish you the best, man. Nothing but success for you. Do you have anything you want to plug?
I don't. We're rolling right now. We're rolling just fine, so I don't have much to say on that end.
Hey, Stu, just one last question for you. Is there a team that you root for now? Like, do you root for the Rangers because you play for them, or is there a certain team you cheer for in the league?
For me, like, I'll want to watch games where I have buddies that are playing in them. And they've moved around, right? So I don't know if I really have a team that I necessarily. If I watch a Rangers game, I still want them to win. I don't know why that is, but and I still know some of the guys there too. So I would say I like watching them play. I also like the style that they play. Panarin's always fun to watch.
So good this year.
He's so good. It's insane. I was able to catch a game. Actually, Michael Haley got me tickets when I was out in Columbus. We were playing Ohio State, and they were in town playing Columbus, so I got to see them play there, and it's just, they have an insane amount of skill, especially for a team that says they're rebuilding.
Yeah.
They have quite a bit of skill on their back end and on the front end, so it should be interesting to kind of see what happens with them down the stretch here.
Okay, I lied. One more question before we let you go. Is there one guy, or maybe even a team, but is there one guy that you kind of just knew, you kind of dreaded going into a game against? You're like, oh, man, it's going to be a long night with this guy out there.
Ooh. Let me think for a sec.
Sure, and if you didn't, I'd be even more impressed, because that means you were probably the guy other teams were thinking about.
No, we all think about it. If anybody says they're not thinking about it before a game, they're lying to you. But no, I mean, I guess I never really shied away from the fighting part of it. So for me, it was more like, just kind of calming my nerves a little bit. But no, I wouldn't say there's one particular guy where I was like, oh no, like I don't want to go play that guy. Because usually it meant I was going to, have a chance to get in a fight and do my job. So I didn't dread it by any means, but definitely you get nervous, and day of a game you might have a tough time sleeping in your pregame nap.
Well, there you go. Spoken like a true American badass. Stu, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time. Good luck to the University of Minnesota. Good luck to you. Thanks again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for rocking with us. That was awesome. Thank you to Stu Bickel. Happy to hear he's doing well. That was interesting. That was some insight. I never talked to a tough guy like that before. I was kind of blown away. It just the willingness to say, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna eat a few punches tonight, but it's what I'm doing for the team. It's what I got to do. I guess it's kind of your life, though, to be honest.
It's so funny. I mean, I remember as a young player that my dad kind of just said, like, hey, listen, like you've been on the practice squad for 2 years, like. Pick the toughest guy. Pick the best defensive tackle and just start a fight with him. I mean, they got to notice it. And so for him doing that for a job for every day of his life is pretty impressive.
That's, it's just awesome. All right. Give Stu a follow along on Twitter. Also, follow us at That's Hockey Talk. We got new merch, too. We got shirts. That's Hockey Talk, available at store.patmcafeeshow.com. Help us out. Check out, thank you to our sponsor, Sheath Underwear. Go check them out. Promo code hockey. All right, everybody. Thanks for rocking with us.